Raider Nation, good morning. It's Mitchell Renz here, host of the Raiders Report, and today we're going to be breaking down the biggest winners and losers from Raiders Minicamp. I understand that this is a 3-day sample size, so I don't want to overblow everything, but I do think, you got to give your flowers to the guys that went out there and killed it, and I'm not going to really harp too much on the losers, but at the end of the day, this is my job, and I'm going to break it all down for you. Personally, I think you're a loser if you watch the show and you're not hitting that subscribe button. A winner, especially here on the Raiders Report, somebody that's hit that sub button, somebody's got those noties on, somebody that's always trying to be a part of that noti gang. So what I'm going to do here is I usually always start with offense. Let's switch it up a little bit, right? We're going to start with the defensive side of the football, and I have these winners ranked from 5 all the way down to 1. 5 is a good winner. Number 1 is going to be the biggest. I also was able to sprinkle in some honorable mentions as well. I am going to put Cody Lindenberg, linebacker. He was drafted in the 7th round. He's really been working behind Landon Roberts as that second linebacker. I am really curious to see what the entire linebacker room looks like once Jermaine Pratt kind of gets into the fold of everything. But from what I understand, Lindenberg is above Tommy Eichenberg. I don't know if he's above Amari Gaynor, but that's a win for him. Let's go to number 4 here. I'm going to throw in Darien Porter, rookie in the 3rd round. You love to see both of your rookies, and there was a lot of conversations, a lot of attention on all 11, honestly, of the Raiders rookies at minicamp. But for Porter, he continues to work with the ones. And I think that the expectations for him were high. I have been told by multiple Raiders players that he is literally like a sponge and he always wants to soak up some information. You could tell that he's an athletic freak and a big winner from minicamp. Let's go to number 3 here. I'm going to throw in Leki Fotu. And realistically, with Christian Wilkins out, Fotu has been the number 1 nose tackle for the Silver and Black. When the Raiders signed him early in free agency, I thought that he could have a role on this team as like that defensive tackle 5, defensive tackle 6. With Adam Butler missing a few practices, again, he was dealing with his wife was getting ready to have a kid, more than acceptable, but the Raiders really relied on Fotu, and I think it's because he's that big-bodied defensive tackle. Coming here at number 2, I'm going to say Eric Stokes. It has been Porter. It has been Stokes. They have been predominantly your top 2 outside corners, and I think for a young rookie in Porter and for another guy in Stokes that signed a 1-year essentially prove-it deal, he's going to have to prove it, but he also has a great coaching staff in Marcus Robinson and obviously head coach Pete Carroll. But coming in here at number 1, and I would say clearly the guy that went out, showed out every single day at minicamp, and I said this earlier in the offseason that I'm hoping Jeremy Chinn is the reason why Raiders fans aren't upset that we didn't bring back Robert Spillane, because I look at that linebacker room, and I know losing Spillane sucks, but Jeremy Chinn has been the best safety. He's also been lining up in the box, kind of playing a little bit of that linebacker role. But when you think about how much the Raiders spent on Landon Roberts, Jeremy Chinn, and now Jermaine Pratt, all 3 of those players, it's still much cheaper than Robert Spillane, but you really got to tip your cap to Chinn. That guy was a dog. Let's also talk about some honorable mentions that I want to throw in here. Maxx Crosby just continues to be that guy. I almost feel like we're kind of getting into the era of like when LeBron James was just unbelievable a few years ago, and he probably could have won the MVP every single season. You just don't appreciate the greatness of one, and I think Maxx is kind of the exact same thing. I expect Maxx to be up here. So when he's still here, he's probably better than everybody else on that team. It's good to see that he's healthy. It's good to see that he's motivated. Tyree Wilson, I've been hearing a lot of good stuff about him. The engine, I was talking to Wilson literally just the other day, and he finally is really starting to feel healthy. Him and Rob Leonard have been working a ton. Lonnie Johnson Jr. has been getting a lot of work as the 3rd safety behind Paul Amal, behind Jeremy Chinn. Thomas Harper's been working a lot at nickel. I'd say he's the 4th safety ahead of somebody like Tre Taylor. And then Adam Butler, I'm also going to throw into the mix here at minicamp just because when you're a leader and your main defensive tackle is out, you need somebody that's going to be able to lead that squad, and Butler has really taken it upon himself. And I'm not going to say he's going to be a team captain, but I do actually think he's a very, very sneaky candidate to be a team captain. Coming up next here on the Raiders Report, we're going to talk about some of the losers on defense. And again, I'm not going to go too much in depth on a lot of these guys because I think for minicamp especially, the notes that I personally have always received since I've done this are the positive notes. And you don't really harp on the negative because, again, it's only June. Before we get into that, though, if you do not know, Father's Day, it's literally right around the corner. It's this Sunday. And if you're just trying to get something now, you might be a little bit too late. The word there, though, is might. Don't be last to get your dad something nice. Or if you're a dad watching the show and you're like, Man, I don't know if my kids are going to get me anything. I don't know if my wife's going to get me anything. I'm going to get something for myself. Go to chatsports.com/Raiders jerseys. We got Raiders hats. We also have chatsports.com/Raiders sale. Raiders sales where you can get literally all of that stuff. I'm going to put the links for you guys down in the comments, down in the description of today's show. So if you're looking for a hat, a hoodie, jerseys, there's stuff in there for toddlers, there's stuff in there for the kiddos. Chatsports.com/Raiders sale. All right, let's go to some of the losers on the defensive side of the football. And I'm just going to say Tommy Eichenberg and Jalen Smith. I'll be real. I had some good reports on Eichenberg back at OTAs, but they went out and signed Jermaine Pratt. I think Jermaine Pratt's really going to make it difficult for Jalen Smith and Tommy Eichenberg to make a name for themselves on this squad. Maybe I'm proven wrong. Christian Wilkins has got to be on this just simply because he's hasn't been out there, and really he's been the only guy not practicing. I know Bachman and Dylan Parham also missed some practices. Chris Smith, I don't know who that Chris Smith is. It's a very common name. I know it's not the Raiders' Chris Smith, but he has been a loser. He was a fifth-rounder out of Georgia. I think in our system you have to put he's technically Chris Smith III. Again, I don't have Chugs. I got my guy Reed who's been busting his freaking ass this whole week. DeCamerion Richardson, I'm also going to throw him in as a loser as well because with the Raiders at least working out Shaquille Griffin. Now, at the time that I'm making this video, again, it's bright and early in the morning, and the Shaquille Griffin, I'll say workout, if you will, it started on Wednesday, and it actually also went into Thursday as well because there was a report from Josina Anderson that said something like interrupted the visit or they just wanted a little bit more time. If they bring in Shaquille Griffin, that makes the Cameron Richardson, I think, clearly the cornerback 5 on the outside, which is a really tough gig, I think, for the fourth rounder. All right, y'all, coming up next here on the show, let's get back into the winners, and this time it's going to be on the offensive side of the football. And I don't know who was better, if the defense or the offense was better. I think depending on who you listen to, depending on the players you talk to, right, it can be very I've talked to a few defensive guys, and they're saying defense wins. I've seen a few beat reporters say defense wins. Though I've talked to a few guys on the offense. I've heard offense has been winning it. So I think it's a good battle overall. Coming in here at number 5, I'm going to throw in, it's going to be Kolton Miller. And kind of like what I said about Maxx. You expect Miller to be a very dominant left tackle, but I think I put him on this list because I want Miller to take that next step and being like that really, really great leader. He is a silent assassin is what I would call him. I would say he's almost like a silent fart, but that's being a little bit too naughty to Miller. But the fact that he was there, the fact that we've seen so many guys this offseason on other teams sit out even though they want contracts. Miller deserves a new contract as far as I'm concerned, and I don't even think it'd be that difficult for him to get one. I'm hoping he gets one. He went out there. He showed, I think, what this new organization wants. I want guys that want to be Raiders, and Kolton Miller made that very clear. Let's go to number 4 here. It's going to be Michael Mayer, and the first 2 days of minicamp, I would say the number one player that the Raiders tried to get the most out of, not named Ashton Jeanty, was Mayer. They're trying to see how they can use him. We were talking about a report earlier in the week that the Raiders are going to use a lot of 2 to 3 tight end sets. Mayer has been very impressive. Chip Kelly is a big fan of him. I'm a big fan of him. And I know that Brock Bowers is always going to be that tight end 1. That ain't going to change. But it's okay to have 2 great tight ends. Go ask a guy by the name of Tom Brady. Let's go to number 3 here. It's going to be Ashton Jeanty. And I know that Pete Carroll said something about a running back by committee. I wouldn't overblow that statement at all because if you thought that Jeanty was going to get 100% of the touches, then I don't think that you know ball all that well. Yes, Raheem Mostert's going to get some work. Jeanty is still going to be that every down back. They're trying to see how they can use him in the pass game. They're trying to see him in a multitude of different ways. Hell, the special teams coach said that he might even take kickoffs. So they want to put the ball in his hands as much as humanly possible. But the other words that we're hearing, humble, coachable, and an absolute generational talent. Ashton Jeanty comes in here at number 3. Let's go to number 2. It's got to be Dont'e Thornton Jr., and he's been getting a lot of work on the outside. I would have said that Thornton going into the year would have probably been, the Raiders' wide receiver 5. I think now you could comfortably say he's going to be the Raiders' wide receiver 3 because it's been Jakobi in the slot, who I would say has been Mr. Reliable. And then you got Thornton, who's this big-bodied field stretcher. It's going to take the top off of a defense, and you can't stack the box up against Jeanty. But to me, the biggest winner on offense, I think it's got to be Tre Tucker. And I know that Tucker was a big winner last offseason. And I expect Tucker to honestly do really, really well in minicamp OTAs where you can't be as physical and you can just let that guy be an athlete and let him stretch the field. I was told that Tucker might still be the fastest wide receiver on this team. I've also said in the past that I've been told that Tucker is pound for pound one of the toughest players on the Raiders, and you can really see that wrestling background. My point is, though, when this offseason started, we thought Jack Bech, at least I personally did, thought Jack Bech was going to be the wide receiver too, and Tre Tucker was going to be battling it out. And going into this offseason, if you're Tucker, you're thinking, brand new regime in my third year, and the Raiders went out and drafted 3 wide receivers in the draft. I know I wasn't the only one going, oh man, I wonder if Tucker's on the hot seat. I think after what we've seen from OTAs and minicamp, Tre Tucker is comfortably the wide receiver 2 behind Jakobi Meyers, and if the season started today, it would be Tucker and Thornton on the outside. It would be Jakobi in the slot, and then you're going to have Michael Mayer and Brock Bowers working in that mix. So I want to know down below, please get down in the comment section, who do you think is the Raiders' biggest minicamp winner? You can throw out a bunch of different names. I fully understand that. And, I think for me personally, you could say a Tre Tucker. I think for me personally, you could say a Dont'e Thornton Jr. And then on the defensive side of the football, Jeremy Chinn, somebody along the lines of a Darien Porter, somebody along the lines of an Eric Stokes. The good news is this, Raiders fans, I think is also a big winner. You can clearly see that Pete Carroll and John Spytek, what they're bringing to the table. It looks different. It feels different. It is different. And I think that is a big reason why there's a lot of Raiders fans really freaking hyped up right now in the month of June. I think it's also why you see a lot of Raiders players out there doing things that aren't mandatory. Yes, minicamp is mandatory, but you also had guys that deserve extensions going out there in non-mandatory fashions. It's because of what this regime is really, truly bringing to the table. Let's keep it moving here. I don't want to do back-to-back questions. So we have more honorable mentions to get to on the offensive side of the football. I also want to be able to bring up Jakobi Meyers. To me, he is somebody that I do think deserves a lot of credit. Geno Smith has done a really solid job. Jackson Powers-Johnson in there at center. Sincere McCormick's been running really violent. And then, honestly, I got to give a lot of love to DJ Glaze. And I say that because sometimes when you don't hear anything about a guy, it's a good thing. And I'll typically say that that's the case for more of the offensive side of the football. But for Glaze, there was a lot of question marks around his role on this team entering the season. And from what I understand, he has really held his own over there at right tackle. Now let's get into some of these Raiders minicamp losers on the offensive side of the football. I don't know if I should put Dylan Parham on this list. I've kind of gone back and forth all morning about it because Parham did not practice that final day, and I know that he's in that battle right now, but I'll be real. I think Jordan Meredith, they're going to kick him over to center, and that's kind of where he was working on that final day on Thursday, and then they had Thayer Munford in there at left guard. From people that I talked to, it sounds like the starting offensive line is going to be Kolton Miller, Dylan Parham, JPJ, Alex Kappa, and then DJ Glaze. And I think that the Raiders are pretty confident in that group. If you want to look at this depth chart a little bit closer, I did just update it literally bright and early this morning. So you can see that I put Munford over there at guard. I put Meredith behind there at center. You still see Caleb Rogers working a little bit at right guard. Charles Grant's been getting some work at left tackle. Adiz actually also got some reps in at left guard yesterday. But overall, I think the Raiders like this offensive line a lot. So I do kind of feel bad for putting Parham on the losers list. But then again, he's battling and didn't practice that final day. That's going to be my call. Jack Bech, not that he did anything bad. And I also kind of feel bad for putting Bech in here, and it's not that Bech did bad. It's just Dont'e Thornton Jr. and Tre Tucker, to me, I think, passed him, and because those guys went out and showed out, Bech falls down to probably your wide receiver 4 on this roster, and because he's now the wide receiver 4, that hurts him a little bit. In terms of Laube, Kyle Phillips, they're just not getting as much work. Laube, I don't really know how they're going to use him. Him and Zamir White, it's really difficult. Kyle Phillips is getting brought down. I thought he could be somebody that would make the 53. I don't think that that's going to happen. And then I'm going to put Raheem Mostert in here as a loser because, again, I know there's been reports about a split backfield. However, I really think Ashton Jeanty is going to get 65% of the touches, and that might not seem like a lot, but like back when I would say 65 to 70% is a very typical share of the backfield for bell cow backs in the National Football League. All right, y'all, before we get into the very end of the show, I'll also throw in some guys that, we're going to continue to talk about here. We've been doing a Tuna's Top 5, and this is the segment that I want to continue to do here, and the random question that I have, also, if there's any questions that you guys want me to feature in a Raiders Report video, don't be afraid to hit me up, IG, Twitter, at Mitchell Renz 365. The question today is, which would be the smartest animal if they could all talk? I forget what that movie was. Is it Dr. Dolittle? Dr. Dolittle, where he's talking to all the animals. So, smartest animal, if they could talk, let me know your answers down below. For me, my top 5 are this. I got to put dogs on here. I don't know if y'all know. I got a dog. His name's Chuck. Dude's an absolute legend. Chimps, dolphins, octopus, elephants, I feel like are also the smartest animals out there. I don't know if you've ever seen Planet of the Apes. They're really smart in that movie. Dolphins, octopus, I think what octopus can do are pretty freaking wild. And elephants, best memories in the game. I wish I had a memory as good as a freaking elephant. Before I leave here, though, I always want to give a shout-out to my real ones, and I also want to give my real ones the opportunity to join a fantasy football league that I'm going to be doing this year. I might do a 14-team league. That would be the absolute max, depending on how many people we get in. It's going to be, though, 2 spots we're giving away in June. Whoever bangs the most this month, which right now belongs to the Night Devil, and then we are doing a $5 Super Chat or $5 Super Thanks. Winner is going to be announced on June 30th. Hope to get everybody in there. And if you don't know, I'm going to be live later on today. Raiders, Chiefs, Madden simulation, 4 p.m. Eastern time. Make sure y'all pull up.